Hello, welcome back to Rory's Workshop, and today the 90s back in the workshop. I've made a decision over the weekend. I've been camping with some friends, and as the car's got an MOT and the engine's not happy, I don't have the time to start fault finding, pulling bearings with it in the car. So I'm going to pull this engine out, refit the old engine. It's still fully serviceable. I'll do obviously a service on it and put it back into the car's reliable, useful, and then I'll probably inspect the bearings next time I'm home. Or what I might do is send it up to ACR up in North Wales, Chester. So I'm draining the fuel, draining the coolant, and I'm just going to start a time lapse and pluck everything out. Anything interesting I'll show you. Hopefully I'll be able to get this engine running a little bit better than what it was, because I've massaged the inlet and exhaust manifold in the previous episode. Everything should be fairly easy to get hold of. So yeah, let's get to it. Well, that wasn't too bad. The engine's out, as you can see, and obviously I've been transposing some of the parts across. I've just done the bell housing adapter. I'm going to put the standard flywheel back onto that engine because I want to keep that flywheel with this engine. And all I'm going to be doing now is transposing stuff across, the clutch and what have you. And yeah, it's a shame, but hey, it's one of those things got to be done. So I'm going to stop and have some breakfast now because I haven't had breakfast yet, and then I might order some parts. Yeah, and I'll just keep plodding on. If there's anything interesting, although at the moment it is basically just one for one, doing the exact opposite what I did a couple of previous episodes. What I will do is probably transpose a couple of the new sensors across as well, because I may as well. Although the old ones did work. But yeah, pleased with the progress. I'm just going to put some silicone on the bell housing. The other one didn't have. So this is quite an early 90. I presume this engine's a later engine, because the adapter has this massive O-ring in it. Whereas the one off my original 90, which is that bell housing adapter, didn't. And when I pulled it off, it did have a bit of silicone on it. So I put this. In fact, this is the early one. Yeah, this is the early one because the later one's on there. Yeah, it's got a massive O-ring in it. So I'll just let that go off, and then it'll be water pump on, starter motor on, flywheel on. I put the old flywheel back on. There's a big difference in weight. Jeez. The lightened flywheel weighs 10.8 kilos. And actually I'll probably take the standard one down with me now and put it on the bathroom scales. So I'll go and have some breakfast, and I'll catch up with you all in the next scene. So a few hours have passed. I have transposed everything I think across apart from the loom, which I'll probably do now. Yeah, I just hope this engine's okay. Flywheel's on, the clutch is on. Sure, yeah. I refitted the clutch and the clutch pressure plate that came with this engine. This has only, it's only doing about 3,000 miles. So it lines up pretty well. And that's about it really. So now I'm going to fight on and get it in. We need to put jack under to move the exhaust. And yeah, hopefully it'll slot straight in. Hopefully. Right, I'll switch to a time lapse. In fact, I'll get the loom on and then I'll switch to a time lapse. So I'll see you in a little bit. So I started with somebody the other day, and he said he gets sick of some YouTube channels because they don't show what actually happens. And like he said, like when they undo exhaust manifold bolts, and none of them snap. Like, how often does that happen? Come on. And he said he just wishes that people would show actually what's happened. So here's what's happened. I must have forgotten to take off the HT lead off of the out of the coil this morning. You've probably seen it already. I've just found it. So it's pulled everything out. So what I'm doing is reattaching it. But I also just tried the ignition to make sure that the fuel pump, the carb was full of fuel. And I hadn't, as it turns out, I hadn't reconnected the loom on the engine. So things do happen. It's just one of those things. You just gotta fault find and see what's going on. I did wonder because none of the lights were working, like the headlights or the spots, and it's just a bit weird. But I'll chuck this back in here. And then hopefully we'll be somewhere near. These leads that I've got here are only temporary really, because I want to get some of those nice Magna Core ones. But should be up there. I just set the bishop. Give it up. And then should be up there. Protect it all. So yeah, engine went in really well. There's I'm missing one nut off of one of the engine mounts. I haven't connected the downpipe properly, so it may be a little bit loud, but everything else is on. Fuel pipes in, servos on. Timing, let's see. Let's give it a go, shall we? In fact, what I can do it's working. That's a great start. Oil light went out. Choke was on full, that's why it revved up so high. So a little bit of confidence. I'm going to finish everything else off and then hopefully get this bloody thing out. I'll take it for a run. This engine's already run in, so we can do that. 19. I need to make a really long one for getting to the exhaust nuts from underneath. Right, back in a moment. So I'm going to start it. I've tightened everything up underneath. Everything's now tight. I'm going to start it up and see how she runs dashboard needs on. And they're clattering around. 3 in 1. Oh, so what I'm going to do, I'll throw on the water pipes and we'll go from there, because it sounds okay. But I think one of the problems that this engine had is that the inlet manifold, I remember when I fit into the other engine, wasn't sitting flush on the head. I want to make sure that it's correct, it's right before we do any more. So I'll throw these on. Switch to time. So it's the next morning. I decided to stop and go out for dinner. Well, I got told to go out for dinner. So water pipes are on, engine's full of coolant, and I thought I'd try it, but the camera ran out of battery last night. But I'll show you what I'm up against. A little bit weird, this one. Peg has fallen to bits. Don't worry, it's fixed now. So what it's doing is, let me calibrate the paper. What it's doing is getting to about 1500 RPM and it's not picking up anymore. This is one of the reasons that I'm sort of worried about this engine, but having looked into it, check the points gap. Points gap is perfectly fine because it wasn't. The vacuum is working on the on the advanced retard, but don't think the weights in the flywheel, the weights in the distributor are coming out. It feels like it's just locked because it'll get it to about 1500 RPM and then nothing. It's all timed correctly, so I've got the time to get out. So what I'm going to do now is take off the off the new engine's distributor because we know that one runs well. Do the old switcheroo. And we'll see what goes on there, and I'll probably write on it dud. So I'll get on with that. 13mm spanny out, and we'll start the time lapse. I don't know. Is the honest answer. Ticks over beautifully. Got the timing set to 6 degrees, 650 RPM with the vacuum taken off, but it's just not going over 1500 RPM. It's getting a little bit smirky. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to try and ring Roland and just do a bit of research because the Dizzy's good. We know that Dizzy's good because we've had it on that engine. There's plenty of fuel going. I'm just worried that the cam might be out of limits, which is a bit shit. But we'll work on it. I'll do some research and I'll come back to it. So I'll go and get some knowledge and I'll catch up with you in a little bit.